This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Precisely 6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Danushka Madhavela and read by Sharifa Tahir. Headlines. The Prime Minister instructs to implement joint program considering drinking water requirement as emergency situation. Heat index advisory issued for several areas in Sri Lanka. President returned to Sri Lanka after successfully concluding a 2-day official visit in Singapore. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that Channel I rented out to save SLRC from bankruptcy. Sri Lanka Army accepts $6.2 million worth military communication vehicles from China. Foreign news, Tropical Storm Harold makes landfall in Texas. In sports, India chess prodigy takes on Magnus Carlsen in World Cup final. Local news in detail. Considering the current requirement for drinking water in the country as an emergency situation, it has been decided to implement an urgent program through an Emergency Action Committee. It will be implemented jointly with the Ministries of Water Supply, Irrigation, State Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government. The decision has arrived at a meeting which was chaired by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at the parliamentary premises yesterday. Accordingly, the Prime Minister has instructed to include the secretaries of the aforesaid ministries in the relevant committee under the leadership of the Prime Minister's Secretary and also to involve all relevant institutions to implement this program. A heat index advisory with an amber warning has been issued by the Department of Meteorology for today in several parts of the island. Accordingly, the public have been warned by the department that the temperature felt on the human body is expected to increase up to a level of caution in some areas of the northern, north central and eastern provinces and in the Monaragala district. Further, the public have been warned that prolonged activity or exposure to the sun could lead to fatigue, while continuing such activities could result in heat cramps. Thus, the department urged for the public to stay hydrated, limit strenuous outdoor activities and take breaks in the shade as often as possible if their work involves extensive exposure to the sun, while also requesting that all persons wear lightweight and white or light-colored clothing. Further, the public were also warned to never leave children unattended and to continuously check up on the elderly and the sick. President Ranil Wickremesinghe returned to Sri Lanka after successfully concluding a 2-day official visit in Singapore. President Wickremesinghe, who was on an official visit to Singapore, held discussions with Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong yesterday. The focal point of these discussions was the reinforcement of collaborative efforts between the two nations. The leaders emphasized the importance of sustained cooperation and explored avenues for increased economic involvement, President's Media Division said. In the aftermath of this significant meeting, a pivotal step was taken to solidify the partnership between the governments of Sri Lanka and Singapore. A memorandum of understanding was successfully inked centering around the joint venture on carbon credits. This landmark collaboration falls under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, a pivotal framework for global environmental stewardship. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation giving you the news. Continuing with more stories here at home, Transport, Highways and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena emphasized in Parliament that if the Channel I was not provided on a rental basis, there would not be a Sri Lanka Rupawahini Corporation. Minister Dr. Gunawardena stated this while replying to a question raised by NPP leader MP Anurakumar Disanayake under Standing Orders 27-2. The minister further said that the SLRC has made a loss of 1.6 million rupees since 2018, emphasizing that the decision to rent out Channel I was made for the purpose of running the institution. The minister said that if anyone proved that fraud has occurred and fraud in this transaction, he will resign from his ministerial portfolio. The acting Minister of Defense, Pramitha Bandara Thennakoon, officially accepted a $6.2 million worth emergency command and communication system vehicle fleet from the Chinese Ministry of National Defense during a ceremony organized at the Army headquarters premises yesterday. These vehicles, embedded with the ultra-modern communication devices, have been originally designed for military purposes. Following the acceptance of military-to-military donation from the defense attaché of the Embassy of China in Sri Lanka, Senior Colonel Zobo, the acting Defense Minister Thennakoon, handed over the donation to Defense Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne, and the Defense Secretary symbolically presented the keys to the Army Commander Lieutenant General Vikum Lienage. That's local news for the moment.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Election Commission requests the public to ensure that their names are in the Electoral Register 2023. If the respective Gram Niladhari has not come to the house to count the voters this year, the public is requested to contact the area Gram Niladhari officer immediately and make sure the inclusion of the names in the Electoral Register. Persons who are 18 years and were born on or before the 31st of 2005 are eligible to register as a voter in 2023 at their usual residential address. People can check the availability of the name by visiting the website www.elections.gov.lk.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Live is brought to you by
CIB Janajaya Vasana. Unbelievable discounts and offers throughout August from CIB Janajaya Vasana. Come today itself.
The Registrar General's Department announced that certified copies of birth, marriage and death certificates issued by the department will not be valid, or rather invalid, after 6 months. In a public notice, the Registrar General's Department announced that the regulations that the documents are valid for 6 months have been removed. The department also informs that if there are copies of any certificate issued, there is no need to get a new copy. The Ministries of Education and Foreign Affairs, as well as the Department of Immigration and Registration of Persons, have also been informed in this regard.
CIB Janajaya Vasana. Unbelievable discounts and offers throughout August from CIB Janajaya Vasana. Come today itself.
World News headlines. Tropical storm Harold makes landfall in Texas. 18 bodies found in Greek forest after wildfires. Relief as all passengers brought to safety in Pakistan cable car accident. World News in detail. Tropical storm Harold has made landfall on the southeast coast of Texas, bringing more heavy rain and high winds in the southern U.S. Multiple flash flood and tornado warnings are in place on Tuesday and expected to last into the afternoon. National Weather Service officials predict 1 to 3 inches of rainfall in under an hour in some regions. The Texas deluge arrives a day after historic amounts of rain flooded parts of the U.S. Southwest. California and Nevada are cleaning up on Tuesday after parts of each state saw historic amounts of rain from Storm Hilary, which caused widespread flooding along the mud flows, downed power lines and trapped cars. 18 bodies have been found in a forested area of northern Greece hit by wildfires for the past 4 days, the Greek Fire Service says. Initial reports suggest those who died may have been migrants. A coroner and investigation team are heading to the scene near the Dadia forest. The Evros region of northeastern Greece, not far from the Turkish border, has been ravaged by fires. A hospital in the city of Alexandroupolis has been evacuated. Newborn babies and intensive care patients were among those moved to a ferry at the port. Fires are raging across several fronts in Greece, whipped by high winds and temperatures which climbed above 40 Celsius in several parts on Tuesday. Flames are thought to have spread rapidly since Monday in the large wooded Dadia National Park to the north of Alexandroupolis, and emergency services sent mobile text messages to the surrounding areas asking people to leave. Finally, on world news, all 8 people who were stuck in a cable car dangling hundreds of meters above a ravine in Pakistan's northwest for many hours have now been rescued. In a slow and dangerous operation, a military helicopter rescued one child while teams on the ground recovered the rest of the group after dark. They were helped to safety along a zip line with a huge crowd on top of the hillside celebrating their rescue. The group were on their way to school when one of the car's cables snapped. It was left hanging precariously across 900 feet above the ground and in high winds. Pakistan's caretaker Prime Minister Anwar ul-Haq Kakar said he was relieved and thanked all of those who were involved in the rescue. Pakistan's army said the rescue mission had been extremely difficult and dangerous. That's on World News.
Development News is brought to you by
Job opportunities for well-experienced housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait for ages 40 to 58 years. Salary 125,000 rupees. Contact 037 7500 500.
The construction plan for the new operating theatre facility of the Avisavali District General Hospital has been handed over to Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. It will be constructed under the instructions of Prime Minister. 1.5 billion rupees has been allocated for this project. It consists of 12 theatres and a ward complex with 600 beds as well. A paying ward is also included in the construction. The Premier said that by developing this hospital, people in 2 districts will benefit. He promised to provide the necessary medical equipment, other supplies and the staff as well.
Job opportunities for women from Deshakti Lanka in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Oman. Housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia, ages 40 to 58 years. Arabic speaking and well experienced home cooks. Salary 125,000 rupees. Interviews are now on with foreign agents. You can travel overseas free of charge now. Branches Colombo, Kurunegala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500. Deshakti Lanka Foreign Employment Agency.
And on sports, Indian chess fans are delighted as the country's R. Pragyananda is set to take on number 1 ranked Magnus Carlsen in the World Cup final. Pragyananda, 18, had defeated world number 3 Fabiano Caruana in a tiebreaker on Monday to advance to the finals. Carlsen had reached the final over the weekend after defeating Nijat Abbasov, and this is the first time that Carlsen, 32, will play in the final of the World Cup held by the International Chess Federation. Pragyananda, who turned 18 earlier this month, is the youngest to play in the World Cup final. In the meantime, in rugby news, Owen Farrell will miss England's first 2 World Cup pool games after World Rugby successfully appealed against the decision to overturn his red card. The England captain's 4-game ban means he will miss the group matches against Argentina and Japan, with 2 warm-up fixtures also included. Farrell's red card had been overturned by an independent judicial committee, which was then overruled on Tuesday. The appeal committee said the tackle was always illegal. That's on sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth ekat life eke change ekat niyamata set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekat niyamata set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Itru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Microsoft has made a new bid to buy Call of Duty maker Activision Blizzard in the latest twist in the tale of what would be the biggest deal of the kind in the gaming industry. Its original $69 billion deal was blocked by UK regulators. Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, said the new offer was substantially different and should be approved. The UK Competition and Markets Authority will review the deal, but said this is not a green light.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth ekata life ekේ change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship එක menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Sri Lankan Airlines said it has restarted direct flights to Jeddah 3 times a week, pushing up total weekly flights to cities in Saudi Arabia, and Sri Lankan is expanding capacity after the government of Saudi Arabia began relaxing its visa policy to boost tourism, the airline said. Jeddah is convenient for pilgrims visiting the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, the airline said. Sri Lankan also flies daily from Colombo to Dammam and Riyadh with a total of 17 weekly flights. That's on Economic News.
Weather report.
A few showers will occur in western and Sabargamu provinces and in Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in central Uva and eastern provinces and in the Mullaitivu and Vavuniya districts during the evening or night. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere over the island. General public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporarily localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. That's the weather update and the headlines again before we wind up this bulletin of news. The Prime Minister instructs to implement joint program considering drinking water requirement as emergency situation. Heat index advisory issued for several areas in India. President returned to Sri Lanka after successfully concluding a 2-day official visit in Singapore. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that Channel I rented out to save SLRC from bankruptcy. Sri Lanka Army accepts $6.2 million worth military communication vehicles from China. Foreign news: Tropical Storm Harold makes landfall in Texas. In sports, India chess prodigy takes on Magnus Carlsen in World Cup final. We conclude this bulletin of news.